Welcome back. This is Carlin Stan with Real Estate Radio San Antonio, and we're speaking with Ed Guerrero of Guerrero CPA. And Ed is talking about tax strategies. And we are talking about, Ed, tell us when your next show is, when your next tax strategy show, and what's that's going to be about.
Our next show is scheduled for December 19th at Pericos at Sonterra. Mm-hmm. And
that's the one right off of 281 there, right?
It's right on the corner right there on 281 and Sonterra. Yeah, that's correct. The show's it's tailored for the end of the year tax strategy, so that we will be really listing out all the top 15 items that you should be doing prior to the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And again, it's the last minute tax tips for individuals as well as corporate owners, who will have some corporate case studies so that we can show what we've done during the tax strategy time.
Well, let's just take a couple moments, if you don't mind, and tell us about what happens at one of your events at Pericos and how do they get registered for it?
Okay. Well, first of all, we always educate the public on embracing the IRS at the beginning, because fear is the number one thing that everyone who does taxes or submits their taxes, that's the number one thing that stops them from thinking about tax strategies. So we got to get over that. And then we hypnotize you at our event so that we can make sure you understand that you've got to be thinking the way we want you to think. So we have this catchy phrase that we not only say go see Ed, but how do I deduct this? I don't know if you remember that.
How do I deduct this?
How do I deduct this? And we say it over and over and over so that we can get that voice in your head, because if you don't have that voice in your head, you're not deducting anything. Mm-hmm. So I usually pull somebody out of the crowd and I say, hey, I can hypnotize you. And I learned that in Vegas. I was in Vegas one time and I saw this guy hypnotize. But I let them know conditionally I cannot dehypnotize you. So you've got to, and of course, if they're with their husband likes it. And they say, let's do it, right? But how do I deduct this is a concept of really analyzing everything you're spending your money on and asking yourself, can I deduct this? How do I deduct this? It doesn't mean it's a deduction, but you're starting to train your mind a little different than what everybody else is doing, and they don't say anything. Mm-hmm. And so they miss the opportunity to deduct because they're not asking themselves, how can I deduct this?
You said something that kind of caught me right here is if their spouse is with them. And I would say that's probably, in my opinion, not being a professional tax person, but just maybe being a really careful husband, is it's really good to have your spouse or significant other with you during one of these so that all those questions are answered together and you're not trying to pass them on later that evening or the next week or maybe never.
Exactly. And you're absolutely right, because a lot of spouses will, if it's attended by one spouse, they'll talk about that to their husband or their wife, and the one that didn't attend is going, I don't think he can do that. Yeah. I'm not sure if he can do that. And again, we all said knowledge is powerful. Mm-hmm. So the more educated that we get with tax strategies and thinking how to deduct these things, it's not the question, whether can I deduct it. It's how do I deduct it?
Right.
How do I make it legitimate, and how do I deduct it? And in the shows, that's what we teach you, is to think that way and have more clarity, and also understanding the IRS and what they're looking at and what the rules are to do deductions.
Mm-hmm. To me, that's key, because it's like, how do we know what all the rules are? If we don't deal with an IRS all the time, if we're it's just kind of like mortgages and a realtor. That's the team. It's because I don't know how to sell. I don't know how to do a listing, and I don't know how to do a buyer's agreement. And same thing. Tax strategies. You have to be with a qualified tax strategist, CPA. And what is the difference between a non-CPA and a CPA?
Well, we've got, the folks that are CPAs or certified public accountants. So we're taught how to prepare taxes, and we're taught how to do a lot of other things in accounting, and we have a certification, a license to practice for the public. There are CPAs that are private and they work for a private company, They don't practice public accounting, but they're still labeled as a CPA, but they work for a private company. And so they don't practice. So, the biggest difference for us is as CPAs, we have to get 40 hours of continuing education.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not like 5 hours. We're talking 40 hours a year.
That's right.
Okay.
Wow.
So that's a lot of education that we've got to continue. But when you talk about tax preparers, there's so many various types that you can be a CPA, you can be a non-CPA, you can be an enrolled agent, you can be a tax preparer. Again, tax preparation versus tax strategies, that's what we teach about. Because many people have, I would say 95% of the public uses tax preparation, and today they don't employ the tax strategists.
So H&R Block generally are not CPAs.
Generally, they're not,
Yeah, they're not.
and so they're really are tax prep,
And I think that's what they call themselves, label themselves as
exactly.
tax preparation.
Yeah.
That's right.
But to me, they're not skilled. They don't have the knowledge and the license and.
Yeah, they
A
do
little
their
bit.
job. They prepare the tax, and we did that for years. But I mean, I can
We
tell
use
you,
TurboTax.
You were the do-it-yourself guy.
I'm not paying nobody $50.
But you were, weren't you?
Yes, I was. Yeah,
You were paying more than.
yeah, we don't want to talk about that.
We don't want to go there right
Hindsight's
now.
always 20/20. Yes.
Well, and that's exactly what happens is that, preparers will prepare your taxes. There's nothing wrong with that. That's tax preparation. That's what most of the industry does, and that's what most of the
Right.
folks want. But what they realize is that when they find out that they could get maybe $2,000 or $3,000 more back from their tax return because they did tax strategies and they implemented tax strategies. Really, that's the money that I keep telling folks. You're leaving that on the table. So that really is your true cost of your return. It's that $50 stand that you wanted to pay plus
Yeah.
that $2,500 that you left on the table.
Right.
So and that's the cost.
That's right.
Somebody years ago told me, says, "Well, how would you handle a situation if there was actually stacks of $100 bills on the table, and you could do something to get part of that back?" And if you think about it like that, it made me think about things a little differently, because if you thought about money being out there that you could just grab, it becomes more real than, if I do these tax strategies, I'm going to get that money back. But we just have to think about it. It's reality and
that's
true money that's out there.
And that's exactly right. That's probably a good thing we'll do in our office. I'll put a stack of 25,000 and say, okay, you're going to owe this, and then if I take away this much, this is what you owe, right? They can see it, right?
Yeah, I want to be there that day when you do that. So.
We'll film it, and we'll do a radio spot on it. We'll have a lot of fun doing that.
We'll make sure we have
fun.
Donna down filming it for us that day.
If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Carlin Stan at Real Estate Radio San Antonio. And we're speaking with Ed Guerrera of Guerrera CPA. And Ed, we probably already talked about this, and we did a little bit, but so many times new business owners do their own taxes, like we just talked about. But when is the right time that they should hand over those responsibilities for all of that stuff?
We were saving money when we were doing our own taxes.
Yeah.
So.
That's what you were thinking. Well, Carla, I always ask the first question, okay? You guys got into your business to become accountants, correct?
No.
Okay, so why did you do the accounting, right?
Yeah.
And why do you do your
From day
taxes?
one.
From day one.
From day one.
You should put in your system, just like when a builder builds a house. You're putting in a system for a foundation, right? The foundation's the key, right? Well, the foundation on the financial side is the key to building a successful business. And if you have that in place day one, you can go and do what you do best and continue doing it, and you are already disciplined and you're already set up with the financial reporting and everything you need on your foundation to maximize your company's return on investment and minimize its taxes.
And we can do what we know how to do, and
That's
that's
exactly
mortgages and do our business correct, and let you and your team, worry about how to handle that situation that you're professionals in.
That's right.
So it's kind of like a doctor going there, trying to be a doctor and fix yourself. It
Exactly.
sounds good. You might save a little bit of money, but the result may not be the best.
And again, you're thinking you're saving money, but again, without the right tax approach, you might be leaving money on the table.
Right.
So what would you say if you were going to give some tax advice to our listeners today as far as planning ahead into 2015 or the end of the year? What would you say?
Well, I'll tell you, right now,
This is Go See Ed.
go see Ed first. No. Now, really, take advantage of your charitable deductions. Right now, I would say clean out your closets, call the different charitable organizations, and take advantage of all the charities that you can give to. Because a lot of times we look at our taxes and we go, oh, I wish I'd have given more. Right now, take advantage of the next 5 to 10 days. Do that. And call these folks to help you, and they'll come out and clean your closets and clean everything for you.
Yeah.
And again,
And it's a good thing.
and if you're going to buy a vehicle and you own your own, if you're going to buy a vehicle and you own your own company, go ahead and buy it. If you're going to pay for expenses, go ahead and pay for them, and do the retirement deductions that you can do at this point.
Okay. Well, our time is just about up. We want to thank you, Ed Guerra, for coming and being part of our show.
Ed, thank you. This was really
Yeah,
great.
Well,
we
have fun,
appreciate
guys.
it.
I
It
had
was
a lot
a
of
great
fun.
show, and all I can say is go see Ed. And tell the listeners one more time how they can reach you.
They can give us a call at the office at 490-7100, and that's area code 210. And also they can come out to our show at Pericos and on the 19th of December, which is this Friday, at Stone Oak and or Sonterra and 281.
Now, do they need to pre-register for that or just show up?
They can pre-register and they call the office.
Okay. And what's that number? One more time.
210-490-7100.
Okay.
Thank you. And join us next week, same place, same time, 9:30 a.m. The Answer. Do you have the right lawyer standing by your side? From offering insight on divorce, separate property, and more, attorney at law Miguel Ortiz will be providing this expertise. We want to hear from you. We'll see
you
you
all next week. Thank you very much.